Well, it's been roughly 2 weeks now since the White House found itself in the middle of a firestorm over 3 political controversies at the same time. The Benghazi terror attack and how it was handled, the IRS's targeting of conservative groups, which it has admitted, and the DOJ spying on reporters, also admitted. And now comes the political storm. Here is part of an ad just released by Senator Mitch McConnell, the top Republican in the Senate, hitting the administration and the White House hard on the IRS scandal.
Do you believe it is illegal?
I don't believe it is.
Well, when the president does it, that means that it is not illegal.
What does the president believe? Does the president believe that would be illegal?
The law here, the law is irrelevant.
We're going to punish our enemies and we're going to reward our friends.
Joining me now, Monica Crowley, radio talk show host, and Kirsten Powers, who's a Daily Beast columnist. Both are Fox News contributors. And so already it starts, because while we're focused on what the news of the day is, these politicians are focused on 2014 and the midterm elections. And the Republicans would like to retake the Senate. They don't want to lose the House. Most think there's no danger of them losing the House. There are questions about whether they could retake the Senate. But this is going to get ugly before it gets nice again, Monica, and that seems to be one of the very first shots across the bow.
I don't know that politics has ever been nice, Megyn, but I think you raise a really important point, which is that these 3 scandals have traction now, and they are seemingly getting bigger by the day because the White House, the administration, is going along with this drip, drip, drip strategy where every day you seem to get some new revelations that are incredibly damaging without getting any attendant answers to any of this stuff. So even though the 2014 election is an eternity away in political terms, what you're starting to see now is Republicans like that Mitch McConnell ad that you just ran, Megyn. Mitch McConnell has no declared opponent as of yet, and so he's directing his fire to the White House, to the president, to the broader Democratic Party, and I think you're going to start to see more and more Republicans actually doing that.
They're going to saturate the airwaves as they get closer to the actual voting day, aren't they, Kirsten? I mean, these Republicans now are sort of trying to be the, well, okay, we'll be the objective fact finders and we'll get to the bottom of it. But when it gets close to voting time, it's going to be ads like that, showing Nixon saying if the president does it, it's not illegal. Clips of Dan Pfeiffer, White House advisor, saying the law is irrelevant. And that's, I mean, that's a good preview of where this is going to go.
Yeah, but, you know, I just want to say up front that is a pretty dishonest ad at the very end where it takes Dan Pfeiffer completely out of context. And I think anybody who watched the show knows that he wasn't saying that the law doesn't matter. He was basically saying we're going to hold people accountable regardless of what the law says. And so it's been completely taken out of context. And it's too bad because the rest of the ad is actually pretty effective. But I think that they're going to use these issues as something to really gin up the base. I think it's going to help them turn out. And most people who are watching the elections are seeing now an environment that's going to be very favorable to Republicans, probably.
But now the question is whether it's going to work. Okay, does that work? Because you look at the polling, the president's polling since these scandals broke, and it hasn't been a day, it's been a couple of weeks. You know, it's been 2 or 3 weeks since all this stuff emerged, and longer than that, obviously, with Benghazi. And he's holding steady in terms of approval ratings around 47% or something like that. And, you know, there's a question about whether this is really resonating with the voters, Monica.
Yes, and that is true to this point, Megyn. You're absolutely right. I would take a look at various other scandals over the last 30 years. Watergate took many months before the public actually started paying attention. The same thing with some of the Clinton scandals. So I would say that these are still early days. And look, it may be true that the public may not care. We may see that there is no registering of public opposition or at least assigning blame to the president of all people on these scandals. On the other hand...
But wait, let me just jump in and then I'll let you finish your point, because the polls show that the people do care about, they think the IRS deal is a real scandal. They think Benghazi is a real scandal. They, to a lesser degree, care about what the DOJ is doing to the reporters, but the numbers are pretty high in terms of showing we believe these are real issues and we're not happy about them, and yet they don't affect the president. The attempt to tie it to President Obama has not yet worked.
Yes, not yet. That's absolutely right. And I think, again, these are early days, and we have numbers of hearings going forward on the IRS, Benghazi, and other issues. We have more investigations coming down the pike. So this thing isn't going away. None of these scandals are going away. The public, by and large, and this is true for every president of either party, they're very reticent to actually place blame on the chief executive without evidence.
Yeah.
Now, the evidence may lead there, it may not lead there, but you're seeing now that the public is still willing to give the president the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, Kirsten, Scott Rasmussen had some analysis out earlier this week saying some believe this actually has hurt the president's overall approval ratings because we're seeing an improving economy. We're seeing a housing market that's coming back, we're seeing a good stock market and so on. And the theory is that his number should be higher and would be higher, but for, again, scandal mania. But does it really matter in terms of President Obama's approval? Because what we're looking at is a midterm election, not a White House election coming up.
Well, it matters in terms of if people don't trust the government, then that's bad for Democrats. And so if there's a climate where people are or even unhappy with Obama or feeling that the government isn't being run properly, that's going to make people, I think, less excited about democratic governance. And then at the same time, you're going to have Republicans who are going to be extremely ginned up, especially about this IRS issue. And the reason that I think Obama isn't seeing people really heavily turn against him is because he hasn't really been tied in any way to these scandals. As much as Republicans have tried to do that, there's nothing to suggest that he even knew about the IRS situation. So I think if that ever came out, then that could definitely change the dynamic.
Yeah, that's a game changer, and now we'll see what happens. I mean, Benghazi is a little different. He had a more active role in that one, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with the other two. Ladies, thank you.
You bet.